One of the best quotes I've got is from an experienced member of staff that said, using the technology has allowed me to be a teacher.
It's really offering the children that equitable and unbridled access to technology.
It takes the pupil engagement from engagement to investment.
By the sounds of it, what you're doing is you're changing over the learning journey, so it's just not the teacher just giving the knowledge, it's actually students giving the knowledge. Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Empowered Podcast. This series will be exploring the impact of EdTech inside and outside of the classroom. My name is Ricky Brown, and I'm an Apple Professional Learning Specialist at Sync. Today I'm joined by George Barlow, who's Principal of Belgrave's St Bartholomew's Academy, and also Hannah Croskery, who's a Specialist in Education Technology at Showbie. And we're going to talk about bridging the achievement gap, no matter the background of the child. So, first of all, welcome Hannah, welcome George. I'm going to start this off with asking, what does bridging the achievement gap mean to you? And I'm going to put that to you first, George.
Okay, thanks, Ricky. So for me, bridging the achievement gap, I think about my context in my school. We've got 85% EAL children, so language is a big barrier. High percentage of SEN children. So I think for me, technology has bridged that gap and made learning more accessible through dictation, through voice notes, and also had a big impact on the community. Access for our parents that don't speak English. We've been able to translate things and share that with them through the use of technology.
So again, it's making more of an impact than just within school with your children, it's making an impact out of school.
Yeah, wider.
And I'm sure we're going to dig more into that, but I'm going to go to you, Hannah. Same question to you. What does bridging the achievement gap mean to you?
I feel like in my experience of using technology in schools, so I've been a teacher for 26 years, but for the past, I would say sort of 10 to 11, been using technology. And I think for me, it's really offering the children that equitable and unbridled access to technology, which just offers them every opportunity to just have access to learning, to be able to use their own creativity. And it just gives them so many opportunities that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
So the equitable access with the technology in itself opens so many doors. I mean, I know from teaching, we used to have to print out different coloured worksheets. We had to do different work for different people and the differentiation of the class, and it becomes so difficult, doesn't it? How do you manage that in a classroom, George?
Well, I think we look back at practices prior to using technology, and I think the amount of time we wasted on menial tasks, like you're talking about there, printing, sticking lesson objectives, it's a lot of wasted learning time. And I think at our school, we maximise learning time now for all children.
Did you do anything else with your teachers to allow them to come to grips with what digital technology in their classroom was like?
Yeah, we did, I suppose we did share a mare. It sounds really cheesy when you say it out loud, but actually what that did, rather than focusing on what's going well and people coming and sharing the wow elements, your high flyers, your early adopters, those staff that weren't as confident saw that actually we're all making mistakes, we're early on in the journey, and that's fine. Let's learn from each other, let's reflect. And that was every staff meeting. It was like, right, share a mare, come on, out on the table, open culture. So, and that for half a term worked really well in developing that. Let's all get on board, we're all driving this way, and help people understand the why we were doing it. So,
and I think that's important, isn't it? Understanding the why you're doing it, so that everybody is on board with you, and they will take that journey. Was there any other types of practices you changed with regards? Because I mean, we get a piece of paper, we write on it, we give feedback that way. Is there any other type of change that you've actually done which has helped the student understand more about what the teacher wants before they actually start correcting things or having another go at something?
I feel like one of the really good things, because our two main things were iPads and Showbie, which was a platform I chose at the time because I felt it was the easiest, it was the most reliable, had the most, I call them teacher features, because I felt like as a platform it understood what I wanted from my classroom and how I wanted to teach. So the fact that within Showbie you can actually share videos, you can share your teaching in there, all your resources. I remember when Ofsted came to see me and they looked in my books and said, I can see this is your poorest writer and I can see the improvement that's happened, but where in the book, I can't see in the book how that improvement's happened. And I said, well, it's all. And she said, you're going to say Showbie again, aren't you? And I said, yes, because it literally is. There's all my word banks. There's all, even back in the day, photographs of the big bits of sugar paper that I used for Talk for Writing. So because they had access to all of my teaching at the time when they were doing their work. So even when they were writing in the books, if they were writing in the books for that particular task, all the resources they had were on Showbie, right in front of them, easily accessible, and everybody had access to that.
So you're saying that obviously the teacher can leave a voice note on there and give that, but how do you know what's happening with the student? How do you know that you're developing that student's thinking or understanding? How do you know that that's happening as well?
If we use science as an example, I'm trying to think if we now record science experiments and children can talk over the experiment and explain exactly what's happening. So you're capturing the whole process rather than just a grid of results that you'd stick in a book and then they'd make a mistake and they'd have to rub out. You're capturing the thinking and the end product through Showbie.
So I suppose with recording the video and talking over it, there's also that chance of being able to go back over it again?
Yeah, retrieve information, access to all your prior work. And you see it all the time, children going back to prior learning to recap and then develop and grow from there. So,
and I'm just thinking it as well with parents, and it's always especially when I was in school, when I was teaching, it was always the case of, well, what have you done? What have you done at home? And it was like, no, nothing. I haven't done anything at home. So, but this is then change that conversation, does it? Do you want to answer that one, Hannah?
Yeah, massively. I mean, one of actually my favourite things in Showbie is a screen recording feature, because you know how children, like when my children were primary, all they wanted to be was a YouTuber, for example. So actually this gives them the opportunity to feel like they are being one. And for any child that's kind of reluctant to write or struggles to write or whatever, it gives them the opportunity to actually articulate what they're learning. So then we can hear the vocabulary they've learned, we can hear their thought processes, and then being able to go and watch that back is obviously really good. And the fact that the parents can then say, oh, I loved watching that video, I loved what you've done today, then actually the children are really proud of that, and they want to talk about it. You know, like I used to, back in the day, when I taught reception a long time ago, I used to, at the end of every day, say, right, what have we done today? And I would remind them, so then they would have the words right on the on the edge of the tongue, fingertips, edge of the tongue, to say when they went outside, this is what I've done today, because I knew they would go home and say nothing. So I love the fact that the parents are really involved, because they can see what's happening and they have that to talk about. So yeah, I love that bit.
Well, that's great. And again, I suppose where you've just said about screen recording, you can screen record that practice that you're doing, and whether it's a maths sum or something like that.
Yes.
Because I know parents will turn around and say, well, they didn't do it like that when I was in school. So so are you helping the parents as well to understand a little bit more, George?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what we've done recently, Year 6 started creating SATs reasoning problems, screen recorded, and sharing that with each other. And then we thought, why don't we share this with parents for that exact reason? But I think touching on the YouTube one, all children want to be YouTubers, don't they? Or podcasters.
Yep.
So we bridging that gap in terms of attainment. We noticed boys reading again. They were nowhere near the same as girls in school, so we had a big gap there in attainment. So we jumped on the YouTube thing and said, okay, create a book review. 1, you've got to write it. 2, you've got to do it in a way that we can then produce and create a YouTube channel. So we've got a boys YouTube channel. Girls will create the YouTube videos as well, but they're going viral in India, and you've got boys in Year 6 walking around the school saying, "Oh, I've got this many views. How many have you got?" And
I love that.
So they're not engaged in the learning. They're now literally living it. They are living, and there's a purpose for it. So
yeah, and that's what you're saying. It's a purpose, and there's something outside of school as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a Christmas video, if I remember rightly, that you did?
We went viral. Stormzy retweeted us. So we went viral. We didn't come to school, a bit rude.
Oh, shame.
So if you're watching Stormzy, we're still here. But yeah, we made a Christmas video, and the children did a rap. So again, but focusing on writing, they wrote the rap, changed the lyrics, and then we tweeted it, tagged Stormzy, and yeah, it went big.
Love that.
And I think that's the thing is we've got to open the minds of some of the children as well, that you don't just have to be this, that in your local area. You can be whatever you want to be. If you've just got that dream to be there, and as we said, you can be YouTubers, you can be podcasters, and so onwards. I just want to take it back a bit more to the teachers again, because surely a teacher's been taught in school, this is the way they've done it. And you mentioned the big O word. You mentioned Ofsted coming in. Surely they're looking for a certain practice in school. Does that not cause a problem, Hannah?
I feel like as a school leader, when you're confident about how your school functions, so if you're confident about your teaching and learning, then absolutely, like, I was excited when Ofsted were coming in because I knew we had a lot to show off about. And actually what happened to us was when they were looking at our the wider curriculum when they came into us, and this is back in 2017-18. And because we had at the time, we had all of our subject leaders had almost like a yearbook on their iPad, and so when the Ofsted inspector first came in, we said the wider curriculum. Well, here's our examples of our subject leadership, examples of work that we've done, and because she then saw that as an overall arching view, by looking at these yearbooks. She then said, well, I'm happy with that. I want to find out more about this technology because what is this? And so obviously we were absolutely elated and then just spent the whole day showing off because we were so thrilled with it, because wherever she walked around the school, there was children who fully engaged with their learning. There was teachers teaching confidently, and the pace of lessons was good. The evidence of learning was all there. And obviously when she was looking at the books, and she had the child's iPad. So she was kind of looking at all the evidence of their learning and evidence of our teaching, because obviously within Showbie, we've saved all of our teaching in there as well. So she could see exactly how we taught and what we were using and everything. So we were just thrilled, and she was absolutely gobsmacked and just thought it was brilliant.
So as you're saying, you everything of that learning journey is actually on the iPad.
Exactly.
In a way that you can see the teaching at the beginning, what the child has actually done, your feedback, any changes they've done. It opens up so many more doors. And again, she surely had some teachers that found that difficult.
Well, originally, when we started on our iPad journey, obviously one of the keys for me was, as a deputy head and computing lead, I thought if we're going to go this direction, I need everyone to be on board. And, I'm a little bit of a control freak, as you probably know, Ricky, but what I wanted to do was to make everybody feel like it was something they could do. So not just like, well, Hannah, you're confident with iPads, it's all right for you. I wanted to empower the teachers. And that's the key, I think, is when the senior leadership empower the teachers, to make the mistakes,
100%.
like you say, George, but also to celebrate the win. So it was kind of keeping everyone together on that learning journey, but seeing it as a learning journey. And then to fast forward to the point where they were saying, can't live without it. When we became an Apple Distinguished School and I had to create the iBook, so many quotes from teachers saying, I could not now teach without technology because it's just made my life so much easier. So many quotes like that and I think it was, I'm kind of proud of how we sort of kept everyone together, didn't allow anyone to go maverick that way or that way. We kind of made sure that we kept everyone together and we experienced it all together as a team. And I feel like that's kind of what really helped our staff. And
I think for us, high quality teaching is high quality teaching. The iPad was a tool to enhance already high quality teaching. I think it's not the magic wand, but it will take your teaching to the next level. And I think one of the best quotes I've got is from an experienced member of staff that said, using the technology has allowed me to be a teacher, which is quite powerful. I think
that is really
again,
powerful.
I was like, wow. And in terms of that, it means the children are working independently, so I can get around and assess. I can do some assessment for learning. I can do some challenge questioning. I can do some support because they're all engaged and they're all learning.
By the sounds of it, what you're doing is you're changing over the learning journey, so it's just not the teacher just giving the knowledge, it's actually students giving the knowledge. And does that not change this traditional practice that we normally have in schools, Hannah?
It changes it. It transforms it, actually. It's just changed it massively. I think while you were talking, George, I was thinking about, the evidence really is, Linda and I used to say anybody could walk into our school at any time of the day and it would just be the same every day. And some of the things we used to do we would have, when we talk about pupil voice, we had pupil voice once a week, which was a traditional assembly, I guess, in terms of the time. But our whole school would be sat in little family groups, from one child from reception to year 6 in the group, and then they had an iPad around them, and then we used different apps, and everything was saved on Showbie, so that every child could write on the iPad and write within that sort of app and say what their ideas were. So they were feeding us ideas for the outdoors, they were feeding us ideas for the lessons, and even just any kind of opportunity we've got to involve our students in their own learning is only ever going to have a good impact. It's going to have a huge impact because they actually feel like they're in charge of their own learning, which is how we want them all to be.
I think what you've got to do though as well, and you fall into this trap, I think, as a leader in a school sometimes, don't do it for Ofsted.
Yes.
You're not doing it for Ofsted. Again, come back to your why you're doing it. We're doing it to create citizens of the future, children that can access jobs, careers, be successful in life. A byproduct of that was the amazing Ofsted grading, but we're not doing it for that. It's,
and that's why you say about being confident as a leader. When you're confident in how you've transformed teaching and learning in your own school, then anybody can come and ask, whether it's Ofsted or the shopkeeper down the road. Like, I'm happy to tell anybody, because I genuinely believe that we've made a huge difference through technology in transforming teaching and learning, both for teachers, for children and for parents. It's something to shout about, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, they're talking about my context. Aspirations, huge in our demographic. Children don't have aspirations. They're put into a box. There's that glass ceiling. The Ofsted inspector asked one of the children in year 5, so when you're older then, you're going to work for Google or Apple? And he went, no, I'll be bigger than them. And I was like, whoa.
Did they really?
And I was like, yes.
No way.
That's like a golden nugget moment
incredible.
that you could just like, if you could package that up. So yeah, that's, again, more powerful than any grade on paper for me.
Absolutely.
That aspiration.
100%.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think what I've heard from both of you in this last little bit was the why is important. You started off, obviously, you thought about this, you came up with your ideas about what your why was. Did your why change from the beginning, or did it stay the same, Hannah?
Well, the why is always for the children. So you've got to go back to our core business is the children. That's why I wanted to be a teacher, because I wanted to transform the lives of children.
Yeah.
If I can just go to you, George, has your why changed?
No, not really. I think we started with the vision and started with the why when we got the technology, because I suppose what you don't want it to become is a gimmick and an add-on and a tag-on. It's got to be, your why's got to be that strong that it becomes powerful and impactful. We still get questions now from schools that are on the start of the journey. How many times do you use the iPad in English? How many times do you use it in maths? And it's like, no. Will the iPad have a positive impact on the children in that lesson? It's that flipped thinking of where will it have an impact, and your why on a smaller basis, on a lesson by lesson case. So yeah, it's changing mindsets again for people that are on the start of the journey. So,
and I think the other thing as well, where we've already talked about, is if you're recording that direct instruction from the teacher, then it isn't just lost.
No,
it's not lost straight away. And for those children that suddenly were thinking about one thing or daydreaming about something,
exactly,
they haven't missed that. They can go back on it and have a listen again, can't they?
And actually, and how many times have you had children come in late and they've not had breakfast? So you want to give them breakfast. How often do children come in or go out to intervention groups and then before they miss the actual teaching from the teacher? And if you think about in your school, George, how the most of your money is spent on teaching staff, right?
It's a valuable resource, yeah.
Exactly. So being able to capture that teaching is exactly what we want to do, because then the children can access it anytime. We've talked about parents being able to access it as well. So for those early phonics, for the new maths concepts as they grow through school, being able to capture that teaching is absolutely golden.
I think for us as well, we talk about writing being an issue for us, because without being able to speak well, or children can't then write. So the impact that we didn't even think of prior to using Showbie and the tech and the voice notes, children are practicing the spoken language that often and recording themselves speak. It's had a massive impact on writing, because without being able to speak properly, you can't then transfer it into writing.
Absolutely.
So
correct,
the grammar
George.
and perfect.
And actually, let me just tell you one thing. We had one boy who, when he came into my class, he'd been kind of almost mute, really. So his language and his vocabulary was so underdeveloped. When we recorded him reading and we played it back, he did not recognise himself. He said, "That's not me." I said, no, that's actually how you speak. And so because he loved doing that, he loved recording himself and watching it back. By the end of the year, his vocabulary, his speech was so far on. It was absolutely just one of the most gorgeous moments I've witnessed, when he just realised what he could speak like and how much it improved because he'd watched it back.
I think that's brilliant that you're opening the eyes of students to something that's something new, and you're giving them tools for the future. Yeah. I'm just thinking the more we're talking here, that the classroom's changing, because I know that, and I don't want to mention the C word, but when we had COVID and so onwards, I know that you guys really didn't change your practice that you were doing in the classroom, and everything carried on as normal because the students took the devices home.
Yeah.
So do we need classrooms anymore? George?
Oh, this is a passion of mine, Ricky. I get really frustrated with the traditional classroom. Children come in, sit at a desk, are compliant, do as they're told. It's almost like Industrial Revolution. Let's get children ready to go and sit in a factory and be passive. That's not the kind of skills that Apple, Google, all the big companies are looking for anymore. They want creative, independent, collaborative learners that grow. So we've got a project at the minute where we've transformed a learning space into an Apple classroom. So you've got different levels of desks, so standing desks, low-level desks, a sofa space, a VR area. And I want to trial it and see how effective that is. Does that increase progress? Does it support children being collaborative and independent? If it does, we'll do it. We'll upscale it and do it whole school. That's the plan.
I think from what I'm hearing here, there's a slight shift because you mentioned before about dictionaries. We don't use dictionaries so much, and we
burn them all. No,
we use like the iPad to actually look at spellings and so on.
Yeah.
And I think there's a change in knowledge as well, isn't there? That we now have other search engines and so onwards on the iPad that you can search up whatever knowledge you want. So the teacher at the front is not always the font of all knowledge, and so I think there's a slight shift in the classroom practice of that. What do you think about that?
I feel like talking about the classroom, I feel like the teachers at the front, I feel like we are the facilitators of knowledge.
Definitely.
So we want to facilitate the opportunity and empower the students to go and do that learning. So for example, in our school, we had kind of green screens. We had a massive green screen in the hall, and the quote above was something like, "Let this world be a canvas to our imagination," or something. So when the children had this idea, they'd go, "Can we go and use the green screen to make the video?" Absolutely. We then had other green screen, just green painted walls around the school. But some of my favourite images of being in that school with the children just with their iPads learning outside. And because actually I might say we're learning about, I don't know, volcanoes or whatever, saying to them, like, here's all the stuff that you need, the technology that you need. I feel like we've kind of trained them in almost with the platform that we're both using or we've used. They've got that platform and they know exactly what it can do. They know how to add things in. They know how to search things up. And actually you mentioned split screen before. Being able to use a split screen and to drag images across is just, there's nothing that they can't do actually. So empowering them to be able to go and learn for themselves is just the most empowering thing for a teacher to kind of go, actually, I'm giving you this opportunity. I'm facilitating your own learning experience.
And I think there's a shift as well from what I hear from both of you, is the students are picking up these devices and learning how to use them. The learning goes both ways.
Definitely. I think children pick up on new strategies and things they can do on the iPad all the time, but I think for me it's that level of independence and creativity. I think I went into a year 2 lesson on teeth, and the teacher had created a brilliant keynote to label teeth and then leave voice notes explaining what they did. One of the children in there said, "Miss, can I interview my partner and video each other, and I'll be the dentist and I'll explain the teeth?" Yeah. Like, what a much better way of creating content and capturing knowledge and understanding. Why not? And the children, we're getting to a place now where, especially higher up school, children are choosing how to showcase their knowledge and understanding rather than being almost pigeonholed into, right, do this worksheet. No, it's not like that anymore. Like a timeline, you create the timeline however you want. Keynotes, iMovie.
And I think having that choice is important, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely promotes independence and creativity.
I feel like the minute you step away from, we're going to write this in a book, or you've got to produce a report on whatever it is you're learning. The minute you step away from that and you say to teachers, you don't have to kind of end up with a piece of written work.
Yeah.
Once you empower the teachers to feel that's okay, the teacher then empowers the students to go, right, if we're learning about volcanoes, here's the teaching, here's the information, show me what you've learned. So and that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, isn't it?
Yeah,
Show
it
me
is.
what you've learned and
Yeah.
what you understand.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah, and then you can actually add the extra knowledge to that, whichever way we need to do that, can't
Exactly.
you?
Show me you know
Yeah.
more. Show me you can do more.
Yeah.
It's the,
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And again, I want to come back to a point we've already talked about already, but surely this is difficult for a teacher to change that practice. George, I see you shaking your head.
No, I think it's when you see the time you get back. Flip it onto well-being now. You talk about staff well-being. Look, you've been mugged. It's nice. You get a bit of chocolate in a mug. Yeah, brilliant. But actually, what do teachers want? Teachers want time. They want time back, either to spend with the family or to actually focus on quality resourcing and teaching and learning. We had a brilliant, I had a moment with an experienced member of staff that said, since we've had technology, it's the first time I've ever been able to watch my children swim, because she takes her iPad and she adds her emojis at the side of the pool, which actually, I know it's only a small story, but for her, that engagement and that, I'm going to get so much more out of staff there, yeah.
Yeah, those are times you can't get back, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't
Absolutely.
it? It's about changing that way that teachers look at what they're doing and why they're doing things. And I think back to that why. Why do they do it?
They signed up to be teachers, didn't they? Not to fill out endless trackers that don't tell you anything. So
Exactly.
And I think that's the whole point, is if we could take teachers back to why did you become a teacher?
Yeah.
What was your passion to it? Let's ask you that question. Hannah, what was your passion in becoming a teacher?
Do you know, well, actually, my mum was a teacher. So I used to spend my holidays and weekends helping her do her displays, which is why mine were always so awesome, because hers were awesome. But so I saw the children in my mum's class, because back when we had Baker Days, I would spend my day in her classroom because my school was close and hers wasn't. So I would see the children, I would see her just have this kind of aura of kind of where the children were just soaking up everything she said, because she's always been my biggest inspiration as a teacher. So I've always wanted to be a teacher. Part of them wanted to be in the FBI, and obviously I wasn't able to do that. So I've wanted to be a teacher since forever, but I remember very clearly on my first teaching job, I was working in reception with another reception teacher because it was 2 form entry, and I came with all these ideas of being creative. I was really excited, and I'm not joking, there was a worksheet for everything. We've got a worksheet for that, and I felt myself deflate a little bit, and I will always remember that feeling and never want a teacher in my school to feel the same way. And whenever I've been doing kind of courses and events for 10 years now, and I always say, I know it sounds dramatic, but technology can change your life. Yeah. And that's the exact example that I would give now. I'm going to say that. I'm going to make that example.
Use that one.
Because it will change your life, because it will give you your time back. And that is what we all want. Because actually teaching job is so hard. We're constantly, there's new initiatives, there's always something new coming out, isn't there?
Definitely.
And sometimes you see teachers kind of go, oh, it's something new. But actually, when it's technology, you kind of go, no, wait a minute, this is actually going to change your life, because it's going to make your life easier. Being able just to plan a lesson, and for me to drop some things straight from a website into Showbie, from my iPad straight into Showbie, from your Google Drive straight into Showbie, from your OneDrive straight into Showbie, everything is just so much easier, and that's what we all want. Because we want to enjoy the children.
of course you do, and teach.
And what was your passion, George?
That's similar. Mum and Dad were both teachers. Obviously wanted to be a pro footballer. Obviously, never happened. But yeah, it's about the children, isn't it? It's about, and I'm very passionate about the area I live, Stoke-on-Trent, demographically, deprivation. Very passionate about giving those children the best life opportunities, and giving them the skills to be successful in life. Can they hold themselves in a boardroom, for example? Can they then go and speak to professionals? And that's my passion. Breaking the barriers down, breaking down that glass ceiling, and making sure they're successful in life.
And I think if that can be portrayed to all of the teachers that are in there, when we're talking about bridging this attainment gap and achievement gap, we're doing that, aren't we? Yeah. If that's the passion, and we can say this is how technology is going to help that. We've already said that technology is not the thing. No, that's going to do it by itself. You need good teaching and learning. You need good teachers. 100%. In order to start to wrap up this episode, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. First one is, can you tell me of one success and one challenge that you've faced when implementing a digital strategy? Hannah?
I would say I felt that before we started, our biggest challenge would be the staff, because we had such a range of confidence and competence within our staff. So that was our biggest challenge, was how are we going to get everybody on board and understanding the why and seeing the potential. But that turned into our biggest success, because I feel like we did that really well. I feel like I would have been confident going into any classroom. Anybody could come and visit any classroom at any time of the day and ask about technology and how that's had an impact on their teaching and learning. And the answer would have been the same right the way through. So I think both a challenge and then it was our success.
Nice answer. I like that one. George, do you want to follow that one?
Yeah, success, people, children, staff, community, enhancing the lives of those people and those stakeholders in the school. Challenges, being brave enough to challenge the system that you're working within. Like when I was talking about dictionary skills and traditional classrooms, and be brave in challenging that.
Brilliant. I like that one as well. Being brave is, we always need to be brave if we're going to challenge to do something different.
And change.
Yeah. Next one is, what advice would you give anybody that's thinking about going along this journey that you've been on? Again, I'll go to you first, Hannah.
Okay, so my top tip, I think, would be to start the journey with a vision and plan. So Linda and I, Linda was the head, I was deputy. We did a vision and plan together. We planned it very carefully, took a whole day to do it. And someone came in to help us do that as well. And then what we always talked about was the fact that Linda was, say, ER and I was Tigger. So I was the one that wanted, can I have? This is a great idea. Can we do this next? Can we do this next? And Linda would be the ER that would say, let me just check the budget. Let me just check what we're doing. And I feel like every school that's going to do this journey needs a driver. So the Tigger that's going to be excited and come on, encourage and get excited about things. But you also need that person who would be the ER just to make sure it all doesn't get out of control and stays within that plan. I remember Linda saying to me at the end of our 3-year plan, Hannah, we've done everything on that sheet. And I said, oh, have you still got that sheet? I just was kind of just jumping along excitedly, and she was the one that was checking it. So I think definitely a vision and plan.
And what would be your advice, George?
Similar, start with the why, without a doubt. And then empower staff, do it with them, not to them. And I think this isn't a choice now. Look at the world we're living in. So I think when you're saying, should we? No, you should. You've got to. It's the right thing to do. So it's not a choice anymore. Get on board.
I like that. I mean, at the end of the day, we couldn't be doing this podcast if it wasn't for technology, could we?
No.
Really? So, and it's about getting that message across, isn't it? Well, I've really enjoyed this episode with you, and can I just say thank you very much, Hannah and George, for joining me today. And thank you very much for joining us for this episode of the Empowered Podcast.